parade. That's where Hitler was supposed to be, and that's where potentially one of the two places where explosives were set up. From up here in this church, he was watching the bombardment of Warsaw roughly on 26, 27 of September. And here another picture with his entourage nearby the shopping airport. I'm Stefan, I'm from Romania, and I'm a history enthusiast. I'm living in Warsaw for some time now, and my aspirations is to become someday a tour guide. Good morning everybody, it's Sunday. Despite the sun, it's around 13 degrees. In today's video I'll be presenting you a couple of locations that Hitler himself visited right after the capitulation of Warsaw. Currently I'm at the Rondo Unii Lubelskie, and here is where the Wehrmacht troops and the SS were getting into formation, into the preparation for the parade. On the building behind me, German troops were stationed with machine guns overseeing the parade. Obviously, during the parade and the days prior and following the parade, a temporary ban for the residents of Warsaw was in place. They were not allowed to walk freely. Moreover, they were not allowed to approach the windows, their own windows, the ones that were facing the parade. This became the German quarter following the Warsaw's capitulation. Also from here, tram 0 used to depart, which was also designed only for German citizens. As for the parade, the troops were marching on Puławska Street, and then they were turning on Bagatela, past the Belvedere Palace. Right behind me is Palace Belvedere. It is here that Hitler himself came on the 5th of October in his infamous Mercedes. By visiting the palace, Hitler was symbolically showing that Poland's sovereignty was crushed and that Germany now ruled over Poland. So in short, it was all about propaganda and power to show the Nazis had conquered the old symbols of Polish nationhood. By this point, the president of Poland already had fled the country. He was already by this time in the United Kingdom. The march continued up to nearly Piękna Street. That's where a viewing deck was set up for the parade. That's where Hitler was supposed to be, and that's where potentially one of the two places where explosives were set up in order to create an ambush. Area behind me where the very first assassination attempt on Hitler almost occurred after the beginning of the World War II. Unfortunately, it was failed. There are various reasons. The most plausible, it is the ban that the German authorities put on every citizen of Warsaw. A ban of free movement, moreover a ban of approaching their windows for the ones that were having flats or houses facing the parade. So this is the first spot. The second spot, it is believed to be at Marszałkowska with Nowy Świat Street, right on the intersection. A section of the pavement, it was fitted with 250 kilograms of TNT. This is here in this narrow section of the street where the explosives were set up, and orders from the higher command were expected Unfortunately, those orders never came due to the ban on free movement during the parade the day before and after. So this is one of the main reasons why the attempt was failed. If the explosives were not killing him on spot, the debris resulted from the explosion would most likely have done the job. Adolf H. final stop took place in front of the Palace Saski, which was meticulously prepared for a victory parade and a huge show of force by the Wehrmacht and the SS, and Hitler himself arriving into his Mercedes in front of the Saski Palace, which at that time was still existent. Now the only thing that remains is this unknown soldier monument. One of the consequences, if an attempt would have taken place to his life, was the mayor of Warsaw, some senators, two priests, and some MPs were being held hostage just a few meters away, like roughly 300 meters away in Blanka Palace. That's where they were being held hostage, and in case anything would have happened during the parade, they would have lost their life on spot. Moreover, just put it into perspective, in case where he was actually an attempt was actually taking place on his life, retaliation against the city would have been devastating. But these actions would have changed for sure the upcoming events of the World War II, potentially impacting the war altogether and starting an internal fight among the predecessors of Hitler in order to seize power. And of course, the square itself was renamed after himself, the name of the square initially being Joseph Piłsudskiego. The moment the Warsaw capitulated to the Germans, the square was named Adolf H. Platz, which obviously reverted following the Soviet seize of power in Warsaw and in many other cities of Poland.
Ale teraz są trochę mniej rzeczą, bo po prostu nie pójdzie.
It's not very known, but in 1939, right before the surrendering of Warsaw, Hitler himself went up into the tower behind me and was observing the bombardment of Warsaw. So the evil himself decided to enter the church. Well, he was punished a few years later. Luckily for the humanity, he didn't win the war, and he potentially ended his. The angle is pretty tight. That's why the photos taken in here were super up close to not show that they were struggling to fit in this tiny space, since this was one of the best viewing decks in this area. After each visit, he maybe came to Warsaw twice or three times. maximum. He was never sleeping in Warsaw, being afraid that potentially attempts on his life may take place if he would reside here. And obviously, many buildings of Warsaw were heavily damaged after Luftwaffe bombardment. So there are not many places where he could actually stay. So overnight, at night he was going, always traveling to Gdansk area, where he was staying overnight. A week and a half after the capitulation of Warsaw, and up to that point he was around Warsaw area, since he came into Chopin airport, back then named Okece, and he was watching from afar how the city is being bombarded himself and his generals. I would appreciate you guys if you could subscribe and like this video, and make sure to drop a comment. Tell me your thoughts. What do you think? Would it be a good thing to go ahead and try myself to conduct maybe some tour guides in Warsaw? Maybe you wanna join me on this Hitler spots visit? If yes, as I said, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and see you around. Concluding the video with one last thought. On the very same day I was recording these scenery with church, uh, later that evening I crashed my drone. I don't know if it's related or not to the clip itself, but yeah, the evil spirit was still around. Thanks for watching. Bye.